been 638 days since I made my last bet. My name is Rob, and I'm in recovery from a gambling addiction. And something that people keep asking me is to talk about the differences between when I was gambling and now being almost 2 years clean from gambling. What's the difference? Was it worth it? And should you go down that path? But the very first thing that I want to start with is this misconception that people have about leaving behind gambling. So, if you are struggling with a gambling addiction, you might have it in your mind that, hey, if I stop, everything's going to be perfect. I'm going to have more money, more time, everyone's going to forgive me, and everything's going to be great. And the reality is that that's just not true. But what is true is that when you stop gambling, all of those things become a possibility again. Because when you are making your entire life be determined by how much money you're winning, how often you're winning, showing other people that you're a winner, that you can figure it all out without having to work a job, you'll be a professional. These kinds of thoughts, they make it impossible for you to be happy in the long run. So when I quit, I was in a ton of debt. I was working 70 hours a week, and the only thought that I would have was maybe I can go back and win, and then I'll be out of debt and I can move on after that. But I had tried doing that so many different times that it was just frustrating because it always went poorly. Even when I would have the big wins and get myself out of debt to be financially free and leave gambling behind, well, then the pressure was off and I'd just keep going. So 638 days later, what I really feel is a sense of peace. And it's not like a very positive, happy, great feeling good situation, right? Because there's still bad days. But now I know that by this time next week, I'm not going to be in debt. I'm not going to be running around trying to find money to cover an overdraft. I'm not going to be lying to people about what I'm doing. And knowing all of these things, it allows me to actually take steps forward. You can start a business. That's what I did. You can make a step towards a successful business. Will your business be successful? Probably not, right in the beginning, right? It's going to be a situation where it's a slow, steady build-up, and that's what I've experienced over the last 2 years, rather than that one quick hit that we search for as problem gamblers. One thing that comes up a lot when people ask, should I quit gambling? What does it look like on the other side? Is this idea of repairing relationships. People want to have the ability to stop gambling and immediately be forgiven by anyone that they've hurt as a result of their addiction. And what's really frustrating about this, especially in the beginning, is like you don't just snap your fingers and everyone forgives you for everything you've ever done wrong to them, like we have maybe in the back of our minds. But what you actually have the chance to do now is to make a real character change over the course of a longer period of time. So when I first quit gambling, I had friendships and relationships that went to the side. I had a strained relationship with my family to a certain extent. It's not like they were, neglecting me or not wanting to be around me, but they didn't trust me. And it takes a while to rebuild something like that. But as you continue to put in the work, as we're going to talk about later in this video, what exactly you need to do, every single day gets incrementally better. And you don't really notice it until you look back. I can look back now, this far in, and remember that those first couple days after I stopped, I felt embarrassed, ashamed, angry, frustrated, and I didn't have control of my own bank account anymore, which is one of the things that we'll talk about in a bit. But it was such a big ego hit to me that I was angry with everyone in the beginning. And I wasn't working on repairing relationships right away. I just thought, I'm doing the right thing now. Everyone needs to see that. They need to understand that. And then I'll move forward. I'll be happy. And they'll be happy because I'm happy. Something along those lines. So, in terms of repairing relationships at this point, I've repaired pretty much every relationship that I could possibly have salvaged. There's certain friendships that'll never come back, and that's okay. But at this point, I don't have people that are actively angry with me. I don't owe anyone money. And so it gives me kind of not a clean slate, but a new slate, a new page so that I can actually build relationships and focus on them. Because when you're gambling, you're not focused on building those relationships. You're focused on making another bet. And you'll use the people in your life to be able to do that if need be. So be patient when it comes to rebuilding relationships, but things have gotten better. Another question that I get all the time, and it's really Kind of sad that I get it because, we're wrestling with continuing to do something that's bringing pain into our lives. But I get asked all the time, was it worth it? You know, when you get that deep into an addiction, when you're that deep into gambling, all of your pleasure in life, all of your purpose in life is coming from making that next bet. So when someone asks me, is it worth it? Was it worth it to quit gambling? I remember how I felt those first couple days, right? Man, this is not worth it. I want to get out of this faster. I'm going to have to deal with this forever. I have debts that I need to pay. I don't know when they're going to be paid off. It's so frustrating. I'm not going to be patient enough to wait 2 years to be in a better place. That's the kind of thoughts that I was thinking on day one. Now I look back and I realize that the time was going to pass anyway. The debts were always going to get paid off with time. But what I really lacked in the beginning, but have now, was perspective. The perspective being a actual tangible plan, especially when it comes to money, right? People think, I owe so much, like how am I ever going to pay this off? Well, you need to sit down and actually look at how long it's going to take you to pay it off. The answer might not make you very happy, but what that does is that it turns it from something that's an impossible challenge to something that you have a chance to actually succeed at. And looking back now, it was absolutely worth quitting because had I not stopped gambling, I was going to keep going down that path. And eventually, my debts were going to double, triple, quadruple. And we never really hit a rock bottom point at all. We have an idea of, this was the lowest I was at my addiction. But had I continued, it would have gone lower and lower. Things would have continued to progress. And so, was it worth quitting? Absolutely. Was it a beautiful thing filled with rainbows, sunshine, and joy? No, absolutely not. There were bad days, long periods of frustration, a lot of time that I had to wait before I finally paid off debts and found myself in a better position with friends and family and finances. But hey, had I not stopped gambling, I wouldn't be making this content. I wouldn't have been able to move back to Philadelphia. I wouldn't have been able to do the things that make me happy. And I might be working a job that I dislike solely for the purpose of paying down debt, not getting a chance to create and innovate and move forward. When you quit gambling, you get a chance to do something that can mean something to you. Instead of just continuously lying to yourself and saying that it's going to come from sports betting, playing a casino game, or poker. It is not going to create the meaning in your life that you are seeking. And I know that because for 6 years, for 6 to 8 hours a day, that's where I was trying to find my meaning in life. And I never did find it through that, but I really feel like I'm moving towards it with what I'm doing now. You have a chance when you stop dragging yourself back down. Now, how do you know if you're someone that needs to quit gambling? Because admittedly, sure, there's millions of people out there that they'll gamble a little bit. They might win, they might lose, either way. They're okay with it and they move on. That's crazy to me, but it's the truth, right? So, how do you know if you're someone that needs to stop? You're borrowing money to gamble, you're lying about your gambling to other people in your life, you are gambling on credit, you're finding yourself overdrafting, you're losing sleep because you're gambling. Your friends all want to stop, but you want to stay at the casino and keep going. Every time you're frustrated, you want to go out and gamble. In fact, there's 20 questions to determine whether or not you have a gambling addiction, and I'm going to drop them in the description of this post so you can read through them. It's said that if you answer yes to 7 or more of those 20 questions, then you are someone with a gambling problem. And if that is the case, there's 4 things that you need to be doing. First, you need to find alternative things to do with your time. You need to limit your access to money that would tempt you. Limit your access to the casinos by doing a self-exclusion, and go to support group meetings to build a sense of community. And if you want a deeper dive into these 4 things where I explain exactly what I did to get myself clean from gambling, then watch this video. And until we figure it all out, I hope you enjoyed this update, and let's just keep getting better together one day at a time.